Hi everyone, my name is Cher, and this is the Lathe and Loom Podcast. This is episode 1 of a mostly fiber-based, heavily knitting with a little spinning, dyeing, weaving content as well. So welcome, thank you for joining me. My goal with this podcast is to document my journey of learning more about the fiber arts and hopefully share some of the designers and makers out there that support the fiber arts, as well as me creating a community around all things fiber. So I'm going to jump right in with the finished objects portion of the podcast. So first off, I have just off my needles yesterday, I have the Soul Sister socks by Jooles Hill and Amy of the Little Tailoress. I will put a picture up there. This is my, and I need to get some sock blockers, but this is my cast. This is from the front edge, and here is the side view. So I have learning to knit socks. I have always just done my own recipe, plain vanilla sock, standard wedge toe. I like a shadow wrap heel. I learned mine from the I think it's a 2-video series by Chili Dog, Elena, I think it's Elena the Chili Dog. I'll put it below. I just have loved that heel. I've never done any others. I am going to work on some. You'll hear in my cast on section that I will look at a couple of other heels this summer as part of the hand knit sock society pattern club. But this is a lovely pattern. I was introduced to it by Lynn of Callan Yarns. She was knitting it several months ago. I've had it on the needles a very long time. And I had just finished doing my happy shawl and really enjoyed doing that old shale style patterning. And so you'll notice that in this sock, you get a little bit of that as well. It's a simple pattern repeat. It doesn't take very long to get in the habit of, to memorize the pattern. I did not use, the pattern actually calls for a different toe and heel, and I did not use that. I just stuck with mine, but really happy with the outcome. I knitted up in the Farmer's Daughter fibers yarn. So the main color was, that's not the main color. This is, here's the tag for the Farmer's Daughter. It's made in Montana. And this is the main color, which is called Crow. And the contrast color, which I've not rewound, is called York. This is the Squish Fingering. It's 100% superwash merino. I found it quite nice to work with. It has a good bit of spring to it. Colors, the sheen is nice, and the colors are quite lovely. So highly recommend that if you are ready to step out of your plain vanilla sock and kind of dive into the next level of sock knitting. Sticking with sock knitting, I was gifted by my wonderful husband a circular sock knitting machine for Christmas this year. So I have a Earl Bacher Gerhardt Speedster. Even having been a hand knitter, it's quite a challenge to get the hang of using the circular sock machine. So I'm extremely novice in this regard. But I find that despite I am a toe-up sock knitter, so I'm not a great Kitchener seamstress, if you will. And I've tried several options and I'm just not super happy with that. So this sock was an experiment using a toe-up sock on the sock machine. I'm really happy with how this turned out. These are for my son. The tutorial that I used for the toe-up sock was by Jamie Mayfield. She has detail of that on Sock TV, but also I believe this pattern or this tutorial I watched was on her YouTube channel, and I will link that below. So these are just hung hem at the end, hand basted. I did a 3 deep heel on that, and I believe this is 75 rounds on my 72 cylinder. 72 needle cylinder. The yarn I used for that is Super Garn Active. It is a 75% wool, 25% polyamide, and the colorway is 5110 Stone. I got that from Jamie Mayfield through csmsupplies.com. It's very economical. It's a nice feeling sock yarn. I would think it's equivalent to Regia that I've used in the past as well. So lastly, of my finished objects, I was hoping to get selected to do a test knit for Lily Kate's The Brightest Tee, and I was not selected, which is fine because, you know, not everybody can be selected. And but I was contemplating what sort of yarn to have ready for the pattern. It's a fingering weight pattern, and I wanted something a little different. So I have a lot of cashmere, merino cashmere nylon cone yarn in fingering weight that I have for my sock machine, and I have been doing some dyeing experiments. So I kind of dove in and played a little bit to get these lovely kind of bright blue. I mainly wanted it to be sort of watercolor look, and hopefully that will knit up nicely. So it is patiently waiting for, I dyed up a little over 400 yards, or 400 grams, excuse me, a little over 400 grams. And that is done primarily with Wilton food coloring and Kool-Aid dye. So just a little, I'm just kind of experimenting a little as I go. I have not invested in anything to do the chemical acid dye, so really just sticking with the food coloring, although I am hoping to grow some dye-based plants. I'd really like to try indigo and madder. I think marigold is beautiful, and there's some really great YouTube videos out there from Maria with Ninja Chickens and Mars from Hey Brownberry, and they do a lot of natural dyeing, so I've certainly been following that with interest, looking to join that or kind of expand my dye knowledge into that. So I've just slowly been acquiring materials and trying different things and sort of learning a little bit about how colors interplay. So that's been quite fun. So that is it for my finished objects. So moving on to works in progress. So I'm primarily a knitter. I have done a little bit of crochet. In fact, actually my bigger crochet recent project was, this is a float tote by Natty. If you do any kind of color work, or even if you don't do color work, this is a fabulous project, and I'll put a picture up here because I only have the large bag with me right now, but it does have an insert for these little little baby buckets, I think she calls them. And they fit on a sort of a yarn plate, if you will, that fits in the bottom of that. And I use that to keep the yarn management straight for my shawl that I'll talk about in a minute. I enjoy very much knitting this pattern. She's got 3 sizes. I'll put a link to the pattern below. Definitely something to check out if you, but I ended up using it for a lot of other things. It's just super sturdy, very handy. But anyway, so on to the project though. So my, I'm not really a crocheter per se. I had done some growing up. Probably that was my first yarn project, was crochet in Girl Scouts. I think I did, I knitted a crochet poncho. That was the first thing I did in yarn work many years ago. But my cousin had asked me to make the Perfect Pocket Shawl by Sonja Hood. So I'll put a photo here. And so this is the start of that project. I have to tell you that I do not find I enjoy crochet as much as I wish I did. Like I said, I like doing the float tote. I've done, a couple other small projects. I did a little small kind of bowl for keys and stuff for my sister for Christmas. This one I kind of got started. I did the pockets and then I just had a really long stall. It's just not as enjoyable as knitting to me. So I put it on the back burner, but I got it back out about a week and a half ago, and unfortunately she's not going to have it for winter, and she lives in Texas anyway. So, but I am going to get it to her. She'll have it for fall, and now I'm kind of cooking quite nicely along with it. It's very beginner friendly pattern. I am using the Big Twist Classic. It's an acrylic yarn, but I have to say, while I definitely tend to use more natural or combined fibers, it has a really nice feel. And I think for practicality, there's young children, she's active lifestyle. You don't need something that you have to hand wash. So it was really just kind of a practical solution, and I'm really pleased with how it's knitting up. It has a very nice feel to it, and I think it's going to it'll be a really nice project when it's done. So kind of have challenged myself to have that done by the end of the month, really, because I just want to clear the deck for some other things that I want to cast on. So also works in progress. I have joined, so we now live in Eastern North Carolina. But previous to that lived in Richmond, Virginia. So my local, my local knitting store in Richmond, Virginia is Dances with Wool. This is in my Daisy Said bag, which I also got for a Christmas gift. I was very spoiled at Christmas. It was a very lovely Christmas. And in here I'm working, so they're doing a cowl for the Evenstar Shawl by Susan Pandorf. Put a photo there. This is just the front of the pattern. A couple of photos of the shawl. They had this on display when I went, I think it was in January, and I just fell in love with the beauty of the shawl, and it's something very different than anything I've ever done. So I'm just at the very baby beginning. Can't even really show you. So this is the middle, I guess, of the cast it on. It's a pie shawl. The pattern is really clever. It's very well written. I've read through it, of course, several times. And the swatch that Susan has you start with has most of the lace special stitches in it. So you get a really good feel, and then when you block it, you can get a really good feel for how that is going to work out. So just really, I'm enjoying it. Very, like I said, very much in the early stages. So the yarn I'm using for that, and I don't have the label because it was wound for me when I ordered, but this is Jooles Hill yarns, and the colorway is Nickel Bridge. So as I work through that, I did not bring up the yarn content. I will make a note of that for, pardon the crinkling, for a future episode to show you that. So that is a year-long knit along with Dances with Wool, and it is beaded. So the outside edges, I did order the beads from I think Art Beads. It has 3,000 some odd beads on the outside, so we'll see how I do, but I think it's going to look really, really pretty with that yarn. So more to come as we move forward in the episodes with that. So my last work in progress is the Woodlark Shawl by Lurka of the Fiber Tales. I've been working on this for a few months. This is a fun knit. I have loved knitting this. The pattern is extremely well written. I have to say this is a project like my Evenstar Shawl. The cast on, if you can get past the cast on, the rest is all downhill. I think I cast this on probably 7 times. I ended up using a garter tab to start it. It was not her directions. I just was not happy with how I was what I was getting, and the garter tab worked great. And then it's a steeked shawl, so this will be my first steeking. So I'm going to insert a separate video. I'm getting ready to do the steek, so I will demo that for anybody else who has not done that before. It's part of the part of why I decided to start the the podcast this week. So I've done the crochet down the sides of the steek to hold it, and I'm actually picking up stitches on a needle prior to doing the steek. I'm not sure why, that just makes me feel better. So we'll see. I used the tutorial online or YouTube tutorial by the Knitting X-Pack Steeking and Reinforcing and Cutting a Steek by Susan Bryan. So I found those both really helpful, as well as if you purchase Lurka's pattern, it has she's got several helpful tutorials. The pattern is very well written, so you could go with that. The yarn that I'm using for this is soft Shetland wool from Whispering Pine Farms. This is the Morit colorway, which I did not use a lot of. I used quite a lot of gray and the black. This is her 2020 Mill Spun yarn. This is Jen Johnson. She has a podcast that I love. It's one of my weekly go-tos. It's called The Good of Work. And she is the shepherdess of Whispering Pine Farm. So I have a little bit of wannabe shepherdess in me. And so I just, enjoy catching up, and she's really great about showing the farm and the sheep and what it takes to do the hard work behind the beautiful yarn that they produce. So this is the first time I've really ever worked with Shetland. I don't know if you can see this, but it just has this incredible spring to it. I have adored working with it. I think it would be really fabulous in something that you wanted fitted as well. Super soft. I mean, it has a really low micron count. It's a dream to work with. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at that. So we'll have more, pop a little video in here about the steeking of the Woodlark Shawl. This is my Woodlark Shawl by Fiber Tales. And as you can see, this is cleverly knitted in the round, thus eliminating a lot of purl stitches in color work. I have, the pattern calls for 4 steek stitches. I have actually done 6 because I've not ever done any steeking, and that just gave me a little more comfort. I ran a yarn down to see the middle of where I wanted to steek. I crocheted in this moirette contrast on either side of where the steek will be. And I have gone ahead and picked up on my working needle and a spare both sides of the steek stitches, which actually I think was the most difficult part of the whole project for me. Finding the stitches on the black Shetland was challenging, to say the least. So again, I have knit this in Whispering Pines Farm soft Shetland wool. This is, so Jen Johnston is the shepherdess at Whispering Pines Farm, and this is the 2020 mill spun, and I have it in black, gray, and moirette. Lovely, lovely yarn to work with, excuse me. There's really, I guess as you can tell by where the cords are, quite a lot of margin for error there though, from a security standpoint. So really not to worry, people have been steeking and knitting for years. So I'm going to turn this off, I think, and come back. As I get a little further up there. But I'm going to continue in this manner. See you at the other side. But it's moving right along. Seems to be holding. I've got some, these are going to be ends from where the yarn is carried over. I think that's fine. They'll just get cut off and tucked in and fold right in. So yeah, I think that's looking like it should. I'm finding if I kind of wedge the scissors in, that yellow line is really, really helping me make sure I stay on track. And then if I sort of wedge them in, lean over, and I am probably being way more careful than an experienced steeker would be. As I said, there's quite a lot of stitches between where I'll be picking up and where the steek is, and this is of course good sticky natural wool. So just kind of reaching under there and grabbing those stitches. That's just where I've carried floats over as I've gone along. There's my yellow line again. And you can see if you pull it, you can see that quite readily in there. Just having a little bit of trouble managing that with, you really need another pair of hands would be probably the way to go. But there, that works quite nicely. Just sort of reaching under there. I feel like that's a stitch. Go with that. And with that, we are done. So, to figure out how to pick up between there and there, and then there she is laid out. Back up a little bit. Oh, isn't it pretty? Really gorgeous pattern. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully that was exciting. I haven't done it yet, so future Cheryl will be checking in on the Steeking project. I have this in my Prairie Bagworks bag. I had been stocking this fabric for months. It was out of stock on fabric.com. And it popped up, Needles at the Ready actually had one. I love watching Kevin and Ray, another one of my weekly go-tos. But the maker behind Prairie Bagworks, and I should have looked her name up, I apologize. I will put that information below. This is a really well done bag. It has a place for your stitch markers or scissors, what have you. 2 large pockets and this lovely tape in there. Super sturdy, very large. That shawl is quite big. So that was a little fun acquisition. So before I get to a little bit of acquisition news, I have one cast on. So as I cast off my Soul Sisters socks, I am getting ready to cast on the Wild Bee socks, which is the 3rd release of the Handmade Sock Society I guess season 4 pattern. I'm way behind, but I'm gonna go ahead and dive in because this is the yarn that I have caked up. I caked it up for the first pair of socks. This is the Wild Bees. And this is another lovely, lovely. I just am in love with this color this year, all things this color. So this is also Rich Hill's yarn, which I'm making my Evenstar Shawl out of. And this colorway is the Jefferson. So this is hand dyed in Richmond, Virginia. This is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon 4-ply. So I'm excited to get those cast on, and I am going to follow that pattern, which is, I believe, cuff down and has a heel toe and gusset. So I've never done that. So that'll be kind of an interesting, I'm kind of using that pattern series to further develop my sock knitting skills and kind of branch out a little bit. With the circular sock machine, my thought is I will do most of my plain vanilla socks or rib socks on that, and so I can kind of luxuriate in some pattern socks, you know, in my hand knitting, which I really, really like to have for on-the-go type projects. And last, I just was going to share a little bit of my acquisitions. So I've been patiently waiting for Jamieson and Smith cone restock at the Woolly Thistle. I got a notification Wednesday that it was in, so of course I had to jump right on because, you know, things go extremely quickly. I will say, I think I ordered it Wednesday evening and I had it on Friday, so it was incredibly fast packaging and shipping, so thank you to the Woolly Thistle team. Of course, I had to get enough to get free shipping, so they had Plotalopi in stock, which I have never tried. I've been watching Anastasia of Free Your Knits, and she uses this quite a lot, so it's been quite interesting to me. Also Inga of Knitting Traditions uses that as well. So I've got a couple different colorways. Here I've got a gold. I should have looked up which color numbers. A light, like a medium gray, dark gray. I probably cannot see it very well on the cellophane. And then a really pretty, pardon the crinkling, I'll peek into this one a little bit, really pretty, lovely blue. So I don't think it's enough for a sweater, as I understand that this is something that you'll usually hold double, but I thought maybe a cowl or shawl or hats or something. I just kind of wanted to see, could I wear it? Did I like working with it? Really just kind of find out what it's all about. So that brings us to the end of episode 1. I think by the time I insert the video, this will be somewhere around a half an hour. So I appreciate you joining me if you've sat all the way through. If you like the video, please like and consider subscribing. I'm going to try to put a video out about every 2 weeks. And as I said, this is mainly a knitting content, a little bit of dyeing, but I will also try to start putting in some of my weaving and spinning as well. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great day.